Hey guys, this is GhostX, welcome back. So this guide is to help you select the best attachments for your weapons in Battlefield 6. Since some of them are pretty confusing to choose from and some of them are described a little bit weird, I went ahead and tested almost all of them and made this guide for you. If you like Battlefield 6 and want to watch more of these guides and game updates, hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Let's get to it. In muzzles category, we have flash hiders, brakes, and suppressors. Keep in mind the muzzles is the piece that you can add to your gun to enhance your recoil in general. However, not all of them do that, and even when they do, they might not show in the stats because they work mainly on recoil buildup and recoil recovery. Flash hiders basically hide the weapon firing flash and prevent you from having a spotting diamond above your head, but they won't hide you from the minimap when firing your gun, and they also won't change much of the recoil, so basically they're worthless in my opinion. The single port brake is another worthless piece. Don't use this one, it actually increases your weapon sway. The double port brake reduces your recoil just a little bit, and better than that one is the compensated brake. It's actually a pretty nice one because it reduces your recoil, minimizes recoil buildup, and also reduces your bloom just a little bit. The converter, however, reduces horizontal recoil and basically just makes your gun feel a little bit better when you use it. But you might see a little bit increase in the vertical recoil, so if you want to offset that vertical recoil increase, you can just use the vertical grip along with it. But it also gives you better bloom control, and this is something might also offset the vertical recoil problem. However, I do recommend the converter to be used with the vertical grip. Give it a try, you're probably gonna like it. As far as the suppressors, they prevent you from being spotted, no diamond above your head, and you won't show on the minimap beyond 15 meters away from the enemy. They're supposed to reduce recoil buildup and improve recoil recovery. And again, their effect on the recoil will not show in the stats. The standard suppressor basically does nothing to recoil and even decreases hipfire accuracy, so basically worthless in my opinion. The long suppressor gives you good recoil control but increases your weapon sway, so I don't recommend using this one either. The lightning suppressor is probably your best bet. It reduces your recoil, improves recoil recovery, and of course it comes at the cost of hipfire accuracy, but it doesn't change your weapon sway. And the CQB suppressor actually gives a better hipfire control compared to the rest, and also gives you silence firing because it's a suppressor. So if I were to use this one, I'd use it for close quarters combat. For sights and optics, we have multiple categories starting from 1x zoom optics going to the 1.5 and then 1.7, and then we have to the 2x all the way up to 4.5 and 5x optics. We also have the variable zoom optics and the thermals. For me personally, I like to go with the 1x zoom optics. They feel pretty nice and they give you that sense of a better recoil control. It doesn't actually change the recoil, it's just an illusion, but it feels nice when you use it. Of course, this all depends on your gameplay, your preference, and the kind of match you're playing. If you're in an open area like Conquest or Breakthrough, or if you're playing close quarters modes like team deathmatch and squad deathmatch, your choice might change. If I swap the 1x zoom optic with the 2x, you can see the difference in recoil, but again, that's just an illusion. Now, if you upgrade your weapon or progress your mastery and unlock the thermals, they can be a game changer, especially on certain weapons like the LMGs. They're actually pretty nice and might give you better gameplay. Just keep in mind, both thermal optics can be completely occluded by smoke. So yeah, not much to say about optics other than that all personal preferences. If you haven't tried the 1x zoom optics before, I suggest you give them a shot. You're probably gonna like them as well. Grips, in my opinion, are the most important part of attachments, and they're something you actually need to pay attention and test before jumping into the game, to be honest with you. The reason I say that is because the grips will give you a different feel for each category of them and also for each weapon you use. At least that's what I've experienced. The main three categories of grips are vertical, the stubby, and the angle. The bipod grips, in my opinion, are worthless. They do help with your recoil, but only if you mount the weapon. But they don't even work when mounted from the side. The general thing about grips is they decrease your recoil at the expense of your mobility, but actually the mobility that you see here in the description is the mobility while you're aiming or while you're in ADS. Having any of these grips does not affect your mobility when you're like running without shooting or when you're sliding or whatever. So basically this mobility bar do you see here is not reflective of the actual mobility problem that comes with the grips. The first category would be the vertical grips, and they start from the folding vertical grip all the way to the classic vertical. They all decrease recoil, but the classic vertical is the one with the highest recoil reduction. They all decrease movement speed when you're aiming except for the alloy vertical, but to be honest with you, the reduction in movement speed while aiming is not a big deal if you're on like a big map or playing Breakthrough or Conquest. I don't see it as a big disadvantage unless you're like in a close quarters combat. For me, the classic vertical is number one in this category, and I would use it almost always. The second category would be the stubby grips, and they also decrease the recoil. The one with the highest recoil reduction is the low profile stubby. The difference between the stubby grips and the verticals is that they don't slow you down as much while you're in ADS. ADS, and they actually might increase your transition speed to aim down sight. That's especially true for ripped stubby. You're probably going to see a faster aim down sight time than without any grip or compared to the vertical ones, but the number one grip in this category is the low profile stubby. The difference between the low profile stubby and the classic vertical grip, from what I notice, is the mid to long range firing. The classic vertical has better recoil control than the low profile stubby. So if you're like in a mid-sized map and not in a close quarters combat, I would go with the low profile stubby, but if you're like in the larger maps, you would go with the classic vertical. As far as the angled ones, they also decrease recoil, but the one that decreases recoil the most is the full angled, but it's not as effective as the classic vertical or the low profile stubby. They do, however, give a better and faster transition to aim down sight, which makes these grips a better choice for close quarters combat, giving you good recoil control with faster ADS. So the top three grips from all of these are the classic vertical, the low profile stubby, and the full angled. I use the classic vertical almost always. Sometimes I switch to the low profile stubby, and if it's a close range combat, I would switch to the full angled. Another thing is that both vertical grips and stubby grips also control your gun bloom, and the highest bloom control comes from the classic vertical and the low profile stubby. The angled grips, however, do not change bloom as far as I can tell, except for the full angled, which might have a slight reduction of the bloom. For lasers, to start off, we have the green laser that is 5 MW green, and you also have the 5 MW red lasers. Both of these, in my opinion, are worthless. The red laser is not visible and it can barely do anything. In general, lasers are used to increase your hipfire accuracy, and in my opinion, the one to go to is the green laser, the 50 MW green. This one will increase your hipfire accuracy significantly, and it doesn't do anything else other than that. Just keep in mind, it is visible to enemies. Now, if you progress your weapon further and unlock the blue lasers, you will have two blue lasers, the 50 and the 120. Both of these increase your hipfire accuracy, and at the same time they increase your mobility while you're aiming or ADSing. The 120 MW blue laser is definitely the one to go to if you have it unlocked. I wouldn't use lasers if you're building your weapon for mid to a long range fights, and if you're playing like matches like Breakthrough and Conquest. In fact, if you put a laser on, you're going to disclose your position to enemies a lot, especially if you get into darker places like buildings and tight interiors. You can turn it off mid-match, but honestly it becomes more harmful than beneficial. The only scenario where I would keep a laser on if I'm playing close quarters combat. So I would have like two builds for my weapon, one build for mid and long range open battles, and one build for close quarters. The close quarters build will have a laser, and I would use the 120 MW blue laser because that's just the meta out of all of these lasers. Here is the difference between no laser hipfire. You can see the recoil during the hipfire is all over the place, and your crosshair is white or regular. And here is a blue laser. You can tell the difference when the crosshair becomes a little bit more narrow, and upon testing, the TTK or bullets per kill is way less with the blue lasers compared to the rest, just because that hipfire is focused. Next thing we're going to talk about are barrels. In my opinion, barrels are a pretty straightforward category of attachments and really not that complicated, but before we talk about them, I want you to understand one thing. You need to understand what projectile velocity is. By definition, projectile velocity means how fast your bullets will travel after they leave your gun. So if you have higher bullet velocity, that means your bullets move faster, you get less bullet drop, and it becomes easier to hit medium and long range targets. And eventually you will get better hit range. So basically the gun feels more accurate with higher velocity, giving you that laser-like feeling at distance. That's why barrels are really important to fix or customize for ARs, DMRs, LMGs, and long-range SMGs. The basic barrel is what comes with the gun by default, and it really doesn't do anything different than whatever the weapon is already designed to do. The short barrel is the top pick for any hipfire accuracy needed. It also gives you a faster transition to ADS, but it has a lower projectile velocity. So basically, don't use the short barrel if you're going for like medium to long range firefights. I would use it only in close quarter combat to increase hipfire accuracy, along with the other attachments we mentioned earlier that are designed to improve hipfire. For the lightweight barrel, it actually has better aim down sight accuracy while moving and a faster transition to ADS, but it has the same projectile velocity as the standard or basic barrel. So in short, there really isn't much difference between the lightweight barrel and the basic barrel. The fourth category, which is the most important one in my opinion, and the one that I would choose for almost every gun except what I'm doing like close quarters combat, is the extended barrels. Extended barrels by default have higher projectile velocity, and they also have faster transition to ADS. The other barrels that I include under this category in my opinion are the heavy and the heavy extended. The heavy barrel by default has higher bullet velocity than most of the other barrels, but what makes it really good is that it reduces your bloom and improves your firing accuracy over extended periods. So basically you will have more accurate shots the longer you fire. And the number one barrel in my opinion is the extended heavy, which has the highest projectile velocity, the highest bloom reduction, and the best improvement in accuracy over prolonged firing. So if you have this one available for your gun you're using, using, I would select it over anything else. Now keep in mind, heavy extended is not available for every single weapon. A lot of DMRs will have it, LMGs and also sniper rifles, but bottom line, the heavy extended is the meta barrel. For ammo and ammunition, we have a standard one, which is the FMG, and it's basically the one that I would go for almost all weapons. You probably won't have the rest unlocked yet, but as a default choice, and if you want ammunition that doesn't disappoint you, I would stick with the standard FMG, which is the first one you get. We also have the tungsten core, which is, in my opinion, doesn't really do much and sometimes actually feels worse than the standard ammo. It increases your recoil, which is really bad, so I wouldn't even use it or think about it. We also have the lightweight or the polymer case ammo that gives you better ADS movement speed but keeps the same damage and the same bullet velocity as the standard one. You can give it a try instead of the FMG, but in general I don't use it that much. The frangible rounds, they're worthless in my opinion. I would not use them at all. They basically delay the healing and regeneration of your target, which is not something I'm looking for when shooting other players. I want to eliminate the enemy instead of just injuring them and delaying their regen. The last two ammo types are the hollow point and the synthetic. Both of these increases the headshot multiplier compared to the standard FMG. The synthetic is more damaging on headshots than the hollow point. But the problem with these two is that you need consistent headshots to see their actual potential. Most of the time they will save you a bullet. For example, if you have a gun that kills in 3 headshots and you use one of these type of ammos, you will get like a 2 headshot kill. But you have to land all of those shots to the target's head. And since most of the time we're playing like in a fast-paced, chaotic situation, especially in close range firefights, landing all of your shots to the head can be a little bit difficult. So these type of ammos won't always show their full potential. However, if you can do it, if your playstyle is different and you always go for headshots, then these ammo types are superior to all other ammo options and they are amazing for decreasing your time to kill. And by the way, hollow point is available on all weapons, but the synthetic rounds are only available for some SMGs, LMGs, and DMRs. The mag flare makes you reload while you're aiming down sight, which is not something I really do a lot, and I don't think that you do this often as well. And honestly, you don't want to do it often. You want to come out of your aim, change your position, hide from enemy before you reload. Or you reload while on the run, so the mag flare is really not worth it putting on your gun. The mag catch gives a better improvement to reload speed, but I don't really notice any much of a difference when I use it. In my opinion, it's just worthless piece. The match trigger gives you better performance in semi-auto, reducing recoil and increasing accuracy. So if you have a weapon with semi-auto and you apply this, you might see a little bit of difference, maybe a little improvement in recoil, but going semi-auto or single shot on any weapon by default already gives you better bloom and better recoil control. So I don't know how different is it to use match trigger. In my opinion, it's another worthless one. The rail cover improves weapon draw speed. I actually did not notice any difference with this one versus not using it at all. Ergonomics in my opinion are just complementary attachments, more like cosmetics, and I wouldn't even spend any points on them. The only attachment that comes in the ergonomic category is the DLC bolt that comes with the sniper rifles. Basically what it does is enable rechambering while you're aiming down sight. This is probably the most important one in my opinion, because you don't have to come out of your ADS while sniping to cycle the bolt, which is the case if you don't have this attachment on. There are a few other attachments that I did not go over in this video, which are self-explanatory and not as important as the main categories we just talked about. But with that, this concludes our video for today. I hope this guide will help you choose the right attachments and build good weapons for yourself. Stay tuned for upcoming videos on how to build weapons and for further guides and analysis of weapons and attachments. If you found this helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe and share it with your friends. If you have any questions, drop them down below in the comments, and if you have a different opinion about anything said in the video, please share it as well. Until the next one, cheers and have a good day.
Late night glow on the monitor light, ghost X grinding while the world sleeps tight. Controllers click like a heartbeat sound, building a kingdom where the lost get found.